Today, a new mountain hunter comes into our view. He is the lion hunter Richie. In Montana's Ruby Valley, the population density is quite sparse. The rugged terrain also keeps tourists away. This has resulted in rich wildlife resources here, including many types of carnivores, such as lions and wolves. The vast grassland resources make this place a favorite among ranchers. Many ranches have been established here. But in winter, hungry cougars often cause damage to livestock. Cougars are protected by local law, so this unique environment has given rise to a unique profession: lion hunting hunters. Richie is one of the best among them. He has lived in Ruby Valley for over 30 years. Because there is very little social activity, Richie is solitary and unsociable. He has no intention of changing himself to conform to society. Instead, he remains his own man. This is because he has a unique survival secret. A horn sounds and immediately gets a response. This is a foxhound, introduced to America from England hundreds of years ago. True to its name, it has been used for fox hunting. But in Richie's hands, they have another purpose: driving away cougars. Richie and his wife Diane both live in Montana's Ruby Valley. The ranchers here rely heavily on them. Once a mountain lion invasion is discovered, the ranchers find Richie to help drive it away. Of course, this is all paid work. When winter comes, Richie receives many lion hunting orders. Through this, he earns a considerable amount of money. To drive away cougars, Richie has spent a great deal of time training hounds. These training methods are very special. Richie has no intention of revealing them. He enjoys this life, taking his beloved dogs to chase mountain lions invading ranches. In his own words, "If you don't let me keep dogs to chase lions, I might as well be dead." The hound on the hood is named Capone. He is the lead dog of the pack. His main job here is to sniff out the scent of lions. Richie slowly drives the truck through the valley. There is a rope in the truck to prevent the hounds from immediately running off in pursuit if they smell a lion. If a hound chases a lion alone, it is tantamount to suicide. Today, Richie is taking his hound pack to complete a previously unfinished order: driving away a mountain lion that killed 2 cows. Cougar, also known as mountain lion, is one of North America's deadliest carnivores. Their natural prey is deer and elk. Due to legal protections, cougar numbers are steadily increasing. In winter, when prey in the mountains decreases, cougars come down from the mountains to attack livestock, domestic dogs, and even humans. Richie's job is to drive these cougars back into the mountains. Deep in the mountains, the lion is no longer a threat. Richie also prefers not to harm the lions, because if the lion dies, what would he chase then? It must be said, this Richie fellow is actually quite a crafty old fellow. Though not talkative, he thinks far ahead. Sustainable development is all part of his plan. Mountain lions usually hunt alone. They have very large territories. Richie has been pursuing the lion targeted today for several days, but has had no leads so far. This lion seemed to vanish into thin air, but Richie is confident he can flush it out of the woods. His hunting method is called pursuit. It involves finding the lion's trail, then releasing the dogs to track and drive it until the lion is treed. Finally, Richie drives it back into the mountains. Sometimes, this method requires repeated efforts to be effective until the lion is driven deep into the mountains and dares not return. Only then is Richie's job complete. In this game of pursuit, Richie is not always victorious. A lion he calls the three-toed cat, possibly the largest in the valley, not only evaded his pursuit, but also killed one of his beloved dogs. The deceased hound was named Roxy, one of Richie's best hounds. Richie holds a deep grudge about this. He swore to avenge his beloved dog. The death of his dog was a major blow to Richie. It must be understood, training a hound takes nearly 3 years. But so far, Richie has never encountered the three-toed cat's tracks again. The first snow brings great convenience to tracking. Richie can not only rely on the dog's sense of smell, but also quickly track the lion using footprints in the snow. Sure enough, not long after, he found the lion's tracks. This man is a lion hunter. Today, he will drive a lion out of this valley. After searching, Richie finally discovered cougar tracks in the snow. Based on his deduction, this must be the lion that committed the crime and fled. He got out of the truck and carefully examined the surrounding tracks. The footprints were very fresh. It should be nearby. This was the first lion he had found this hunting season. Now, immediate action must be taken to prevent the lion from running far. Next, it was time for the hounds to take the stage. He released an older hound named Brandy to lead the pursuit. Other younger hounds would follow afterward. This allowed the young dogs to learn from the older ones' experience, while also promoting harmony between new and veteran hounds. Shortly after releasing them, the lead hound began barking to summon the others. This indicated it had found the lion. Years of experience training dogs enabled Richie to understand the meaning behind barks. This particular bark meant they had caught the lion's scent. Richie instantly grasped the situation and immediately released 2 more hounds to join the lead dog. Because the lion's attacking power was formidable, 2 hounds were no match for it. Even several hounds might not defeat the lion, but their unique barking disrupted the lion's judgment, causing it to flee blindly. Therefore, the more hounds released, the safer they became. Cougars possess powerful hind legs, used for leaping and sprinting, enabling speeds up to 50 miles per hour. But like leopards, their stamina is limited. This is when the hound's endurance advantage emerged. Once the lion exhausted its energy, it would be forced to climb a tree. The dogs at the base would then notify Richie through barking that the mission was complete. At this point, Richie had to chase after the hounds, while also listening intently for signals conveyed through their barks. In what seemed like an instant, the hounds had already pursued several miles. Richie followed anxiously, pausing occasionally to listen to the barking, to determine the current state of the pursuit. After 4 or 5 miles, the hounds signaled they had gained the upper hand. Richie quickened his pace. These specially trained hounds became frenzied upon seeing a cougar, and might even disobey Richie's commands. But if cornered, the lion might desperately attack the hounds. In an instant, a dog could be killed by the lion. These dogs were practically Richie's lifeblood. They provided his most reliable income and shared a deep bond with him. That's why he rushed to reach the scene, to protect their safety. Now he could only hope the lion had been treed, not driven into a cave. If forced into a cave, a fierce battle between dogs and lion was likely. But a tree was different. Dogs couldn't climb trees. As long as the lion was treed, the dogs were safe. But this safety wouldn't last long. Once the lion regained strength, the dogs would be in danger. Fortunately, the lion had been treed as planned. Richie spotted the lion in the tree from a distance. Even in this tense moment, Richie teased that the lion was in great shape. Now, the real danger had just begun. An animal cornered with no escape is the most dangerous. It could leap down at any moment and sink its teeth into Richie's neck, killing him instantly. But Richie still had to climb the tree, to continue driving the lion, forcing it to jump down and flee deep into the mountains, never to return. Because this was his job, he couldn't abandon it out of fear. He secured the dogs, then began climbing. The lion in the tree showed no fear, gazing calmly at Richie. Clearly, the lion didn't take him seriously, as if saying, "Come on up." Its composure made Richie uneasy. Perhaps it was waiting for Richie to climb high enough before launching a surprise attack. Richie stopped climbing further and deployed his secret weapon. He cursed loudly at the lion. Unable to endure the humiliation, the lion leaped down and fled. This tactic never failed Richie. He quickly jumped down from the tree, released the hounds to continue pursuit, hoping to drive the lion even farther away. This man is a lion hunter. However, his job is not to kill lions, but to drive them back into the mountains. But his driving methods are quite distinctive. He doesn't just curse at lions. Sometimes wolves can't escape his verbal attacks either. Yet he doesn't limit himself to beasts. Sometimes, even humans can't avoid his verbal assaults. But this grumpy old man is the guardian of this valley. He is the lion-hunting hunter Richie. Richie lives in Montana's Ruby Valley, making a living by protecting ranches. On this cold morning, he was busy repairing the jeep used for hunting. According to him, this vehicle was manufactured in 1956, a true classic car. Even though it's ancient and often has minor issues, it remains Richie's favorite. At this moment, a rancher named Dan rushed over frantically to find Richie. Many of his calves had been killed overnight. He didn't know what kind of animal did it. He only knew his losses were significant, so he hurried to seek Richie's help. Richie was also puzzled. I just drove the lions away. How could this happen? He decided to follow Dan to inspect the ranch. Driving 4 miles along this road would lead to Dan's ranch. Montana ranches mostly raise cattle, and the numbers are enormous, roughly averaging 3 cows per local resident. But as carnivores increase in the region, the herds are often in danger. Anyone who has raised livestock understands how heartbreaking it is when your animals die. The dead cattle in the ranch were all calves. Richie counted them, 11 in total. It seemed the perpetrator was exceptionally brutal. Judging by the traces at the scene, it wasn't done by a cougar. The culprit was likely wolves, and a whole pack of them. Wolves massacre prey in large numbers, but they don't necessarily eat it. This is what makes them detestable. The calves were gutted, lying in the snow. When wolves aren't hungry, they only kill their targets, without consuming them. There might be more than 11 calves here. Some buried in the snow might not have been discovered yet, but even if only 11 were lost, with each calf worth $1,000, this killing incident cost Dan $11,000 outright. Richie felt some anger. I can't kill lions, but I can kill wolves. He decided to take action against the wolves. But wolves aren't solitary like cougars. They hunt in packs. This enables them to slaughter en masse, so hounds wouldn't be effective here. He would have to pursue the culprit wolves alone. In this terrain, Richie's classic Jeep became unusable. He would follow the wolves' tracks on horseback. Based on the footprints, he could already confirm the direction the pack had gone. Now he would chase them down and kill 1 or 2 to avenge the calves. A pack of wolves invaded the ranch and killed 11 calves. This infuriated the guardian here. Now he would kill a few wolves for revenge. High in the Rocky Mountains is where wolf packs are often found. Over the past 10 years, their numbers have more than tripled. Wolf packs kill large amounts of wildlife deep in the mountains, making animals scarce. Under these circumstances, they emerge from the mountains again to threaten the livelihoods of local ranchers. Richie serves these ranchers. If the cattle were all gone, then Richie would be out of a job. Therefore, for the sake of the ranches, he couldn't let them off lightly. Richie rode his tall horse, chasing along the wolves' tracks the whole way. The wolf pack was constantly moving. They could cover 20 to 30 miles in a day. So Richie had to pursue them without rest, to have any chance of catching up. One man chasing a pack of wolves might seem crazy, but which of these tough mountain men isn't utterly fearless? They must be prepared to face difficulties head-on at all times. After returning home to get his horse, Richie went back to the scene of the incident. After confirming the direction, Richie gave chase. The mountain road was treacherous, yet he dared not stop for a moment. When facing cougars, Richie's goal was to drive them away. But wolves are different from cougars. They wouldn't become afraid just because they were driven off. Under normal circumstances, they would return to the ranch to kill again. Therefore, Richie decided to shoot 1 or 2 with his rifle, to truly frighten them, so they would never dare to come back here. When he reached a small hill, Richie stopped. He discovered the wolf pack had started scattering and fleeing, as if aware Richie was hunting them down. But by doing this, they inadvertently revealed they were nearby. Richie's horse now became restless, clearly smelling some danger. Wolves will attack horses. They surround them and work together to eat them. That's why the horse got so nervous upon catching the wolves' scent. All these signs made Richie quite certain the pack was close. He tried to attract them by imitating their howls. Unexpectedly, this tactic worked very well. The pack actually responded. Richie immediately chased towards the direction of the howling. The slope ahead was now very steep. The horse could no longer ascend. Richie had to climb the hill himself. He couldn't delay for a moment, because the pack could flee at any time. After climbing the slope, he heard the cries of an animal. It was likely wolves killing another animal. He pursued further and found a dead hare on the ground. Unbelievably, this wolf pack was still killing as they ran. He searched carefully and soon spotted the wolves. Without hesitation, Richie immediately opened fire. He certainly didn't disappoint us, firing shot after shot until all bullets were gone. Yet, in the end, he hadn't hit a single one. Left with no choice, he finally resorted to his secret weapon. Richie, the verbal assault king, ultimately ended this wolf hunt with his ultimate move. Today ended with nothing tangible once more. We truly hope he hits one next time. Do you know what kind of people eat meat without spending money? They are the hunters in the mountains. Winter is already half over. Now, the food stores at Richie's house are insufficient. Saying food stores basically means they are out of meat to eat. For most of us wanting to eat meat, we have to go to the market to buy it. But hunters are different. They just need to shoulder a gun, go up the mountain to shoot a piece of game, and then they have meat. And it's completely natural too. But for Richie, hunting is a bit difficult, because his marksmanship is honestly a bit hard to watch. However, you can't really blame him for that. After all, he makes his living driving away lions. Hunting is just a side job. Montana is the 4th largest state in the U.S. It is sparsely populated but rich in wild resources. This also makes it one of the most ideal hunting areas. It could be called a paradise for hunters and outdoor enthusiasts. To have meat for this winter, Richie is going into the mountains today to hunt a deer. According to local regulations, hunters have a limited quota for deer hunting. Richie still has one last deer left in his quota this year, so he needs to make good use of it. Because cougar and wolf numbers are steadily increasing, hunting deer requires going deep into the mountains. White-tailed deer at lower elevations are smaller and leaner, and cannot be Richie's target. The large, fat male black-tailed deer high in the mountains are his goal. Black-tailed deer generally refers to mule deer, named because their ears resemble those of a mule. They can weigh over 200 kilograms. As long as he bags one, it should basically be enough to meet Richie and his wife's meat needs for this winter. Putting on his hunting clothes and taking his rifle, Richie began the journey to the hunting grounds. The place he was going to was the isolated Tobacco Root Mountains. This place is rarely visited by people, making it an ideal hunting location. He doesn't like crowded places. Here, he can hunt quietly by himself. But perhaps it's because he fears other hunters laughing at his poor marksmanship. Richie rode one horse and brought along another. This was so that if he hit his target, he could use it to pack and drag the game back. Additionally, he brought camping gear, in case he missed his shot today, so he could just stay outside. It must be said, this preparation by Richie was very wise. The destination was several miles from his home. Riding a fine horse, he could get there quickly. Richie muttered to himself the whole way, hoping to bag a fat male mule deer. But hunting is a gamble on luck. If luck is good, nothing can stop you. But if luck is bad, you won't even see a single hare. When he arrived at the destination, he tethered the horses and began this hunting trip. Richie needed to go to higher mountains. That's where black-tailed deer frequently appear. But relatively, the snow is deeper and the path harder to traverse. To get that plump little deer, he couldn't worry about that now. Although deep snow made walking difficult, it wasn't without benefits. For example, he could find much clearer tracks. This would increase the chances of tracking down prey. In this kind of place, finding a deer is very difficult. Finding a fat male black-tailed deer is even harder. But Richie was lucky today. He spotted game not long after. But it was a lean doe. Definitely couldn't waste his quota on that. However, where there are does, there will be bucks. Sure enough, a fat buck soon appeared. It was very far away, outside the effective range of his rifle. Now Richie needed to find an excellent position, and then take the shot. At this time of year, bucks in the rutting season are foolish. You could say it's the easiest time to hunt them. Richie climbed a small hillside and began searching for their position. While he was looking around, a buck suddenly appeared. He panicked a bit, immediately raising his gun to aim. However, he still missed the best moment to shoot. The deer ran out of sight. The hillside was just ahead. There was still a chance. He ran desperately, searching for the next shooting spot. On a small ridge, Richie found a suitable firing position again. This time he didn't hesitate. He immediately raised his gun and aimed. Feeling 250% certain in his mind, Richie pulled the trigger and fired a fatal shot. What kind of hobby could make you give up a $40,000 a year job? And what kind of ideal could make you abandon life in a big city? What exactly possesses such magic? This is the story of fur trapper Charlie, whom we're discussing today. Maine is located at the northeastern tip of the contiguous United States, the largest state in New England by area. Its territory is densely forested, with serene and beautiful scenery. It is sparsely populated and rich in wild resources, also making it an ideal hunting ground. Charlie built his home in the forests of northern Maine. There are still many undeveloped forests here. His original job was as a lumberjack, earning $40,000 a year. But for the sake of a free life in the mountains, he resolutely abandoned his city job. It must be understood, the income from trapping, compared to his former logging work, earned him half as much money. Yet his love for mountain life and his aversion to city living made him never regret this choice. After quitting his job, Charlie built his own cabin in this wilderness. This almost exhausted all his savings, leaving him on the brink of desperation. Only by earning enough money here could he truly escape city life. Otherwise, he would eventually return to the city to work again, resuming the life he had grown tired of. Like Marty, Charlie is also a fur trapper. He traps beavers, as well as martens or minks, obtaining their fur for income. But in recent years, beaver pelt prices have continued to fall. He needs to catch 100 beavers in one trapping season, just to match the former price. However, such a large number is clearly unlikely. Still, he set this number as his trapping goal for the year. Because living here, trapping is his only means of survival. Carrying his traps, he arrived at his usual trapping spot. Many beavers frequent this area. They gnaw on young trees and build dams, damaging waterways. They are one of the species Charlie dislikes, and also the most numerous species in this forest. So among the many targets for capture, it ranks first. Here, beavers can be trapped year-round, but once the waterways here freeze, they become particularly difficult to catch. So Charlie needed to set as many traps as possible before snowfall, to maximize a wave of beaver catches. Charlie looked around, searching for the entrance to a beaver lodge. After confirming the entrance location, he began setting the trap. Setting this large trap requires extreme caution. They snap shut instantly, with considerable force, enough to sever a finger. Charlie had an accident before. When you're alone, you must be careful in all things. If an accident happens, no one will help you. Charlie knew this well from experience, so he is very cautious with every action in the wild. The trap was pushed into the mud. The other end was secured with a steel cable to prevent the trap, once holding prey, from being carried away by the current. Although beaver pelt prices have fallen 40% in recent years, it hasn't affected the fur of other mammals. For example, mink and marten pelts are still very valuable. Charlie traps them using sets in trees. First, place the bait. Then install the trap. After everything is set, he smears a bit of paste on the bait. This is an ultra-concentrated lure, made from glands on the beaver itself. Excellent material for trapping martens and minks. One trap setup is now complete. According to local regulations, only the 25th of March tens, and 10 minks can be trapped per year. If Charlie could reach these numbers, their pelts combined could bring in over $3,000. The time spent setting traps is actually very long, longer than many imagine. But the money earned for this work time isn't much. However, for the sake of living a free life, what does a little sacrifice matter? Today, Charlie set many traps. He would return here in 2 days to check his harvest. 2 days passed quickly. Charlie returned to where he set the traps to see if there was any gain today. The goal of catching 100 beavers in one trapping season is really quite ambitious. Unless incredibly lucky, it's hard to achieve. Charlie soon arrived at the marten trap. A marten was caught by the head and was already lifeless. The little marten didn't suffer. It died instantly when the trap snapped shut. The catch was removed, and Charlie reset the trap, awaiting the next harvest. As a trapper, there are countless tasks to do every day. Charlie dared not pause for a moment, continuing to the next trap. Unexpectedly, he caught a mink too. Catching a mink deep in the forest was quite good luck. These 2 pelts today, when sold in spring, could fetch over $200. Earning that much in a day would be quite satisfying for most people. Charlie was no exception. This greatly boosted his confidence. He felt he was fully capable of conquering this wilderness. Do you know what it feels like to find money on the ground? No stealing, no robbing, nothing illegal. You can find over $2,000 in a day. This is the story we're telling today. Charlie, needing to earn money, was searching the forest for moose antlers. After some searching, he finally found a spot rubbed by antlers. Such places are the most likely to have shed antlers. He brushed away the snow. No antlers underneath. Perhaps they'd already been picked up by other hunters. He hopped on his snowmobile and headed to the next spot. Again, he found nothing. Charlie urgently needed cash now, and not finding antlers directly affected his livelihood. Time after time, he discovered signs, only to face disappointment again and again. After 3 hours of searching for antlers, he still had nothing to show for it. Charlie's mental state was nearing its breaking point. After checking 2 more spots with no results, he finally snapped. He began cursing up a storm. Life doesn't just require effort. Sometimes it also needs a bit of luck. After a long search, he had found nothing. It must be understood that these were all areas where moose usually roamed. Antlers must have been shed here. Charlie began suspecting that his territory had already been claimed by other hunters who'd picked up all the antlers meant for him. He grew agitated, his temper gradually flaring. Starting his snowmobile, he took off like the wind, looking incredibly reckless. With just 2 hours until sunset, and a blizzard approaching, Charlie's hopes for antlers seemed bleak. But there's a saying, isn't there? Plant flowers with care, they won't bloom. Stick a willow branch, idly it grows shade. Just as Charlie was almost in despair, he finally found an antler by the roadside. If he'd known he could find one like this, why bother struggling in the woods? He'd finally picked up his first antler of the day. Today's expenses were covered. He hoped to build on this success, finding more antlers along this road. Find one, and you want 2. If he found a matching pair of antlers, their value would double. Selling both together could fetch $400. But moose usually shed only 1 antler at a time. It's extremely rare for both to fall simultaneously. Other antlers generally won't match in size, so finding a pair is almost impossible. At dusk, Charlie met up with Jim. Jim hadn't come back empty-handed either. He'd found a larger antler. True to his character, he couldn't resist showing off to Charlie. He chuckled and boasted, spraying spit everywhere, which annoyed Charlie deeply. But Charlie couldn't exactly blow up. Night was about to fall. Jim suggested heading home, but Charlie refused. He had a strong feeling he'd make a small fortune today. While there was still sunlight, Charlie decided to follow this road, searching for the antler that matched his find. Though Jim said nothing aloud, he knew inside this kind of thing was too rare. Finding one was like hitting the jackpot. And you still want a pair? Pure wishful thinking. Sometimes, luck is truly unpredictable. Just moments ago, things were so unlucky. But unexpectedly, shortly after, Charlie's luck exploded. He found the other antler. A perfect match. Today's earnings became $400. This was the highest single-day income since he became a hunter. Charlie was now overjoyed. His earlier anger vanished completely. For a novice hunter, today was undoubtedly a success.